Welcome, everyone, to the Two Off the Tee show, Fantasy Six Packs, Golf Gambling, and DFS show. I am your host, who played like crap today on the course, Alan. Got an 18 with my dad and a buddy that's in town. It was not a good day. On the links, Keith Flemming. And with me, as always, my favorite gambling degenerate, Alan, a.k.a. at Actively Lazy 85 on Twitter. A little bit of a letdown this week, right? The Heritage after the Masters, it's just not the same.
Yeah, it was tough to get motivated to cap it. I mean, I'm pretty sure the guys who played in the Masters, it's going to be tough to come out and play as well, especially Rahm, who won it last week. I can only imagine he's probably like, meh.
Well, let's start right there. I was so impressed with Jon Rahm. Unfortunately, we were not happy because you gave the great pick of Brooks Koepka to win. I had him to top 10, which obviously that hit. I didn't think he had any chance of winning the tournament. And then I really think if the weather doesn't shift, there is a good chance he wins. I think it really seemed to hurt him with the issues he has with his legs and stuff. Anybody I've had neck surgery, when it gets cold, you feel it. I mean, your body just does not loosen up. It's hard to move as well. But, you know, it just figures we know how we are with second place finishes.
Yeah.
But I used to say Jon Rahm was too aggressive. I literally posted an article with 5 favorites that I would fade. The rest of them I was spot on with. The one that I was dead wrong was obviously the guy that won, Jon Rahm. And I just didn't know if he had the ability to play conservative when it mattered. And the moment for me that I'm like, man, this tour better look out, is when he hit the biggest drive of any player on 11, almost like 350 yards. He had 9 iron into that green. He had a chance to potentially stuff the iron and just put it away. At that point, I think the lead was still 2. And instead, he hit it to 30 feet, right middle of the green, exactly where the announcer said would be the smart place to put it. He is realizing that I am good enough now that when I get a lead, I just need to not let you beat me or beat myself. I think the wins are going to come in bunches. I put in my article on Fantasy Six Pack today that I'm going to be shocked if he doesn't win another major by the next PGA, because I'm going to tell you the Masters is a venue he could win at any year moving forward, and he should rightfully be the favorite in all these majors coming up. Jon Rahm, who I know me and you both were on big time all the way back in like 2017-18, he's the guy in golf now. Don't you agree?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was really just a battle between him and Scheffler. Like he was probably most people's number one, but Scotty was winning more recently, you know, and being more consistent in his play. It was bittersweet for me because, again, I had Brooks. I'm a big Brooks fan.
Man.
But I like Jon Rahm. I mean, I've been a Jon Rahm fan. He was one of the guys I picked up on when he started out early on. And it sucks because, you know, books adjust, betting adjusts. He was a good prop hit on a regular basis, but by the time he got to his first win, there really wasn't much value in betting him outright because he was like 10-1 already by then. But I remember when he was like 75-1, 80-1, stuff like that. So
remember we had a lot of prop bets in 2018 on him, like top 10, and
to see him continue to play well and reach that potential that we kind of were investing in early on is definitely satisfying, just as a fan of the sport. So I was perfectly fine with that. But you want to know torture. Torture is sitting in sunrise service, looking at the Masters, and then being stuck in a place where you don't have internet. But every time you get just enough signal to check the score, Brooks drops a stroke every single time. I left church with the 3-stroke lead. I got done with dinner and I was down 4 strokes or something like that. I was like, God.
So that segues to me the second big story, which is obviously the LIV guys who, let's be honest, they showed out. 11 of the 18 made the cut. It's only 50-plus players that do. It really shouldn't be that surprising. But we are going to pay attention, I know, and we brought this up over and over again on the preview last week that the betting boards were really disrespecting them. A lot of our best plays, like I had Phil to top 20 at 7-1. I'm livid I didn't take him to top 10 and top 5 because I really thought he could, do that at a course obviously he's done so well at. And a lot of Patrick Reed's another guy that you could have got great top 10 odds on, who also finished in there. I will say, though, the one thing that I said could be a concern for these guys, because Tiger's talked about it for years, especially since the injuries really started piling up, that getting those reps of playing 4-round tournaments and being in that pressure situation of trying to win a tournament with a lead or, being within striking distance on Sunday in the final group, it's something that it'll make you uncomfortable. I mean, it just will, especially if you're not in it all the time. And I do think the weather played a huge role, again, with Koepka's, poor weekend. I honestly do, just with all the injury history he has. But I do think it also made a difference. It had been over a year since he had played in a 4-round event, and been in that kind of contention. It's just something to monitor moving forward, don't you think?
Yes and no. Like I didn't get the vibe that it. I think what really hurt was just the how many rounds they had to play. It was
golf in such a short.
Yeah. It was just such a. It was hard to get a rhythm. His first 2 rounds were normal for him, and then come round 3, he gets maybe.
They got 6 or almost 7 holes.
Yeah, almost 7 holes, and then you gotta come out totally different element on Sunday, and then you pretty much it's a marathon, and then for him, pace of play came into play once again, so he says, and we know that's
rightfully so. Cantley,
and that's a big deal with him. And it's not the first time something like that has happened either. So I'm not trying to discredit that theory yet. I just think we need a little bit more data. So we get a couple more majors and we see that come into play. It's hard to really back it right now because Phil did well, Brooks did well, Reed did well, and they actually did well in Mickelson and Reed's case. They did well on the last day. So I think we just need a little bit more data. And I will say though, the one theory that I do buy in is that these guys don't play the best in the world on a regular basis. Like the competition isn't as thorough as the PGA, and you're not going to get John Rahm talent in Orlando, So that probably did come into play a little bit. But like I said before, I think, with the muscle memory, with the fact that these guys have done so many rounds and so much, in this type of venue and atmosphere, that ultimately I don't think it's going to matter right now. But I mean, as a fan, a big part of me wishes that LIV would just go away. We could just go back to normal.
Me too. I think it's safe to say, though, 2 other quick takeaways, and then we'll get into the Heritage. The first is Koepka's issues was his health. You could absolutely see that this week, that the reason he struggled the last year and a half, as much as I thought it was mental after what, we heard if you watched the golf documentary on Netflix, it was his health, because his swing looked better. The movement he was making, it makes total sense. His plant leg has been jacked up. You could tell it felt healthy, and he looked like the old Koepka. Having said that, I think that if he stays healthy, he's going to win more majors. He was one of the guys that I thought it made the most sense to go to LIV Tour, because he's always said it's all about the majors anyway. So he didn't really, you know what I'm saying? He admitted he didn't even really care about other PGA Tour events. So this way he can basically play in exhibitions and then show up for majors.
Still make a lot of money.
So I get it for him. The other takeaway, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, because I used to be the biggest fucking Phil hater in the world. There is a very good chance Phil Mickelson is going to win another Masters before his 60th birthday, because dude still hits it a mile. He proved this weekend. He looked in better shape than I've seen him in forever. I love that he is like, I'm going to be straight up villain, wear all black on Sunday. My dad said he had full divorce dad vibes going.
He did.
But it was unbelievable. He shot there. It's 52 years old. He shot 65 on Sunday at the Masters, and it's only a little over a year removed from him winning the PGA Championship at a difficult venue. It's unbelievable this way this guy's body's held up. And again, the way we know guys can play that course over and over again, these certain all-time greats. I think he has a great chance to win the Masters in the next 4 or 5 years.
I'm not a big Phil fan, but as a fellow degenerate, I can respect it, man. I see the competitive edge that he has, and I too do appreciate that he takes himself seriously as far as like his physique, because I think on Twitter he's really big about his calves and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
but like he looks good. He looks to be in great shape. And I agree. I would not bet against him not winning another. So it was surprising to me to see him at the leaderboard and went into the clubhouse with 8. So
I thought there was a chance.
Yeah, I was
going to shake. Kept going wrong.
That should be noted. Like he set the bar at the clubhouse at 8, and like
only a 2-shot lead at that point. They were on, I believe, 11. And I mean, I was like, oh shit, these guys could call. This could be like the 86 Masters all over again.
But I don't even know. Like I think you sent me the article with the USA Today person.
Yeah, I did. That was ridiculous.
I don't think the PGA cared that much in the sense that if a live guy had won, it's not the end of the world. They're still top golfers. Like Brooks Koepka is still a top golfer. He's already won, 3 majors? Right?
Alan, what did we learn in the 90s? There's nothing better than beef for companies and media. The East Coast, West Coast rap thing, right? It just sold more and more records. It would mean the US or the PGA Championship ratings, I think, would be even higher if a live guy would have won, because it'd be round 2, right? Of PGA.
And I totally understand the political aspect too.
Yeah, sure.
I wanted to bring this up anyway because there's the political aspect where morally is not right.
Yeah.
Okay. But then there's also the aspect of like Harold Varner, who's like, bro, this is generational, life-changing.
My great grandkids are gonna.
Yeah, he's like, and he was like, this is literally why I got into the game, is to make money, because it helps my family, it helps my future and my kids' future, and so forth. And then there's other guys who jumped ship, who were younger guys, that it was the same thing for them. Like it was generational money. Like you can't turn that down regardless of what's going on. And I do feel bad that cappers and fans are kind of like disrespecting these guys' craft, when last year around this time you were cheering for them. You thought they were contenders, so it's just funny how people switched it up so quickly. But hey, again, I will gladly take Brooks and these guys at 40-1, 50-1 any day of the week. That makes me happy. I haven't seen odds like that since like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, like my favorite pick, I told you guys, was Phil 7-1 to top 20, which hit. Yeah. And I'm just mad at myself that I didn't have top. He was 14-1 to top 10. That was easy money. He had finished inside the top 20. I think it was like 4 out of the last 6 Masters. So that was my bad. I should have doubled down on it. But all right, before we move into the RBC Heritage, just want to remind everyone you can become an all access member. I'll get it there in a second. A Fantasy Six Pack by going to fantasysixpack.net/plans. You'll get access to our awesome Discord, access to award-winning rankings, tools, and a lot more. Join today by using the promo code F6PMLB for 15% off. Again, a little bit of a letdown moving on to the RBC Heritage. It's no disrespect to the course, but we're at Harbor Town Golf Links this week. What's interesting about this event, honestly, is just the fact that this is the first tournament that is really buoyed by the elevated event status, because the other elevated events thus far, most of the top players in the world historically have played there anyway. This is a course that historically the top players in the world have not shown up. And instead, you've had a lot of grizzled vets find a way to win on a short golf course that is all about second shots at 125 to 200 yard range. You got to drive the ball well here. You got to be good around the greens. Obviously, again, on the approaches. I just want to go over these winners because Spieth is honestly the outlier in 2022. And he was 40-1 last year. Stuart Sink 2021, 125 to 1. Webb Simpson 2200 in 2020, 30 to 1. CT Pan 2019, 160 to 1. Satasha Kadera, I probably mispronounced that, 250 to 1 in 2000. Wesley Bryant 2017, 80 to 1. And then you have some decent ones. Brandon Grace was 40 to 1, Furyk 25 to 1, Kuchar 18 to 1. But this week, again, outside of Rory, and I still haven't seen why he withdrew early this week. Everybody's here. I mean, Rahm, you name it, they're all here. So I don't know. It's just going to be interesting because if you're looking for players who have found success, I talked about this in the last decade in the article. The top guys in most strokes gained over the last decade are Patrick Cantlay, Matt Kuchar, Webb Simpson, Cam Davis, Russell Knox, Luke Donald, JT Poston, Kevin Stroman, Shane Lowry, and again, the defending champ, Jordan Spieth. The issue that I kind of have with that list, again, is the strength of the fields, right? So I don't know how much you can take from that list when you're adding Scotty Scheffler, JT, Colin Morikawa, Patrick Cantlay. I mean, everybody's here. But you definitely want to look at that there is a consistent theme over and over again of if you drive it straight, you strike your mid irons well, or at an elite level, actually, you can scramble around the greens. You do very well at this venue. Another thing that I really looked at was some data on small greens, because these are some of the smallest greens the players will play all year. There's like 4 or 5 courses that are kind of routinely over the last 5 years around this size. I took data from that. A lot of my plays for gambling, you're going to hear that over and over again and the reasoning why. Course comps, any Pete Dye course, pretty much, like we say with all short courses, Pebble, Colonial, Sea Island, where they had the Sony Open earlier this year. And then again, the key stats: strokes gained around the green scrambling, fairways gained, strokes gained approach, green and regs gained, par 4 scoring 400 to 450 yards, strokes gained Bermuda putting, proximity from 125 to 200 is huge because everybody's hitting from basically the same, places, a lot of layup shots. And then strokes gained, ball striking, courses less than 7,200 yards. Is there anything that you would want to add to that about the preview for Harbortown Country Club?
Yeah, if you see me looking down, I'm looking down at my notes. It's a weird course in the sense that I read that strokes gained tee to green and off the tee were less than, like, the people who won typically were in the negative in that aspect, but strokes gained approach and strokes gained around the green, those guys typically were positive. So it's a weird correlation. You don't really see that at other venues. It's not
Never.
something. Yeah, it's not something that makes a lot of sense in golf, or at least as far as my gambling has been going on over the years. I don't often see that negative on stroke gain off the tee and then around the greens being something that allows you to win. So that tells me that this is indeed a short game course. So guys like Kuchar, who I usually refer to him when I think a short game anyway, but people, you don't have to bomb it. Actually, it probably is a thinking course. I highlighted emphasis on precision. I want guys that can really put the ball on the green, give themselves a chance to score. And then par 5 scoring is one of the things that I noticed over the last couple years or so with the winners was very key. Spieth actually had the best statistics when it came to the winners. Like last year, he looked like you could see dang, he looked like he should have won. But something that goes untalked about as well is that Patrick Cantlay practically dominated that tournament.
He did
the entire time.
I forgot about that. You're right.
And yeah, it literally makes no sense that Spieth would ultimately win. But if all you looked at was Spieth's stats, you're like, okay, it makes sense that he wins. But I watched that tournament. I remember last
Didn't
year,
he have a really hot day with the putter and his tipping and stuff
Spieth
on Sunday?
Yeah, he just went crazy because that was around the time where we were still trying to figure out. We knew he was due for a win, but when was it going to come?
Right.
And then I think I had bet him a couple tournaments before, and then I started fading him. But either way, what I was looking at was driver accuracy. Guys typically do well if they're accurate here, and then approach, par 5 scoring. don't put a big deal on putting. You want it to be there, obviously, but at the end of the day, Shane Lowry was top 5 last year, and he didn't do anything well. He just, I don't know, he just scored well. Like ultimately, that's what happened. He just scored well. Like his stats didn't
It's a
stand
little bit
out.
of a link style course, which kind of
Yeah.
makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like the grinders do well here. Again,
Yeah.
grizzled vets have won here a bunch over the last, decade or so.
So yeah, I'm excited though, because again, even though we do have that lull coming after the Masters, guys like Cantley and so forth will still want to compete because they still want to win. And there's still 20 million on the line. Like,
it's outrageous.
Yeah, it's still
the money
motivation.
now is so big. You're right.
Yeah,
That it's
it's
like, who doesn't
motivation
want to
enough.
win $4 million? I don't care how much money you got for 4 days work. It's not a bad deal.
Yeah, still motivation.
Completely agree. All right, the DFS. Again, we don't ever spend too much time on this because I do an article every week on Fantasy Six Pack that is already up. You can check that out. I will give my 10 plays, and then Alan, if you have any guys you want to mention, and then we're going to move on to the gambling because that's what I want to talk about. So Cam Young is the anchor of my lineup. I'll get into why I like him so much to win this week at 9,600. You just mentioned Patrick Cantley. He is not in my lineup, but he's the other most expensive option I gave at 9,300. Love Sam Burns this week, 8,700. He's in the lineup. Max Homa, again, is another one of those alternate plays, 91. Shane Lowry and Tommy Fleetwood are both in the lineup at 83 and 8,100. Go Dogs, Russell Henley, 7,800. He is in my lineup. Another option in that price range is Eric Van Rooyen at 7,300. JT Poston, who is going to be a popular pick. I'll get into why he should be rightfully this week. 7,300. He's in the lineup. And then rounding it out, my boy Ben Martin, who again on these short courses, he has kind of became my go-to guy this year. I have again a prop for him at top 20. He just does really well on these short courses. He's one of those guys that you talk about it, and he's very accurate. 7,100. There any DFS plays, guys, that you're looking at? I will admit Thigala is the one guy. He's been doing so well on DK. He makes a ton of birdies and stuff. He just did not fare that well here last year. I think he's like 8,300. He's not very expensive.
Oh, no.
Did I lose you? I think I lost Alan for a second. Well, I try to figure that out. Let's get into I think he's frozen. Let's do it that way. Yeah, you there?
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, it worked.
I was like, we had some technical difficulties.
We had some technical difficulties. You could hear me stuttering and stammering. So I'm like, so I'm glad to have you back, buddy. I missed you. So is there any other guys for DFS before we get in the gambling that you would just highlight?
Yeah, DFS. I was gonna say give a good look at Tommy Fleetwood this week.
I did say though, I had him in the lineup.
Okay, all right. I didn't hear that name. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
What about
freezing? So
Billy Horschel and Brendan Todd at the bottom end too, are some long shot guys that I would assume are not expensive on DFS.
Very cheap. Both of them do well at Sea Island, which is a comp course.
Yeah, and one of the things to think about this year too is this is a course where experience on the course, like having played here before, favors people. So in those particular venues, I like to look back at last year's like top 20, top 30 and get an idea, because typically what you'll find is if the venue favors experience, guys who finish in that top 30 range typically return and either place top 5, top 10, or actually win. Like those are the guys who will have a better chance to win. And I've found good value in guys who were long shots last year, placed in the top 10 and come back to the venue the next year, and then they're top 5 where they outright win. Sepp Straka was one of them at a previous venue I think that we had as a comp, but it was pretty much the same strategy. So that's why I have Horschel and Todd as guys who probably are expensive, or not expensive,
cheap, yeah.
But could potentially score, because ultimately that's what you're looking for at this venue. People are going to score. There's no true stat that we can pinpoint that's like, this is the person you need to look at because they're really good at this, because ultimately we've got plenty of data showing that guys don't necessarily hit it straight, don't necessarily put it in accurately, but they score, and so they still place pretty high. So don't overthink it too much this week on DFS.
And I also would like to say that just for my lineup, I ended up going with one guy above 9,000 and then was able to get four guys 7,800 to 8,700. And there is, again, because of those top guys all being here, I mean, again, Sam Burns, Shane Lowry, Tommy Fleetwood, Tagala, like there is a ton of really good players in that 8,000 range. So you can get really creative. And to Alan's point, if you want to just punt on the $9,000 guys altogether, you could basically do probably a lineup with pretty much all $8,000 guys and, maybe one 7,500 to $8,000 guy. So moving on to our favorite part each week, the favorite bets, picks, etc.
No second place.
Yeah, exactly. I do want to say before we start this, at this point, I have to say that when Scheffler and Rahm are both at an event, I'm not going all in. Like, I'm just not. I have less picks to win this week and even less props because, I mean, god dang, the guys just, they've got now 6 wins. We're just in April, and those two dudes have 6 wins. So when they're both in a field, until we see other guys start winning when they're both there, I just wouldn't go too crazy. I know a lot of, the theory, what do we say, right, Alan? You take a few shots in the lower range, throw, half a unit on these guys. That's fine, but just don't get too carried away because the two guys that you're barely getting 7 to 1 on keep winning.
Yeah, I might have to look into hedging because there was good value on Rahm to come back.
Yeah, there really was.
Yeah,
you're right.
And that's typically how I do it anyway. And I've explained that on previous podcasts. So those 7 to 1, 8 to 1, 9 to 1 guys, I don't want to take them there because typically you're going to get them 12, 13, 14 to 1 because they don't necessarily start out super hot. It usually is a slow build up. Now, Scotty's a little different, but he's had his comebacks as well. And so in this past weekend, I'm pretty sure Rahm at some point was about 14 to 1, which was double the value of what he was at the start of the tournament. So I would rather.
I think you're right. I think it was Sunday morning when he was 4 down on 7th green when they basically called it Saturday.
So I would rather gamble on that aspect than just come in early and take them at what is honestly a little overvalued. I feel like these golf tournaments, man, nobody should be under 10 to 1 unless they're like prime Tiger type.
I agree.
Like Scotty and Rahm are winners and they're beasts, but we've seen them unravel a little here and there to the point where they're vulnerable. Like you don't like you said, you don't necessarily want to go all in, but you're not surprised if they don't win. Like at one point in Tiger's career, you're like, dang, he win.
He won 30% of the time for a 5-year stretch.
Which is
30% of the events he teed it up.
Insane. So I'm always weary of that mentally. Like I keep telling myself, like these dudes ain't prime Tiger. So to what you said, I ain't scared. I'm back on the saddle, man. I'm fighting not to be in second place.
I did look though. They've played 9 events this year where they've both been there. They've won 6 of them. So it's fucking nuts, man. These dudes are good.
Get them out of here.
Getting into the win picks, I went down to Cameron Young 20 to 1. He's my lowest odds play this week. He's just really playing well. Last 4 events, 3 top 10s, 3rd in strokes gained on small greens and field. Finished T3 at this event last year, which is huge. That was his first appearance. That was really before he was at the peak of his powers. He actually started playing really well. This was really kind of his catalyst last year to his great season. He's one of the best players, strokes gained on small greens. I believe he is 4th. He is 3rd. And then the other big thing, do not overlook. He swapped caddies for Webb Simpson's old caddy 2 tournaments ago. In those 2 events, he finished runner-up in the WGC, and then obviously he played great at the Masters last week. And oh, by the way, this caddy was with Webb Simpson for a decade where he absolutely dominated this course, this event. I think that gives Cam a really big leg up. So I like him a lot this week. Who's your lowest odds play this week?
My lowest odds play is Colin Morikawa at 18-1. Just again, when you think precision, you think Colin. It's not putting the greatest, but I wasn't putting a premium on putting, so I'm hoping that doesn't bite me in the butt. But the big thing with my top three is that they all are good par 5 scores. And so that's why I picked them. And Cam Young came in second for me. He's 22-1 for me. But I mean,
so he's gone up.
Yeah. So he just was the epitome of precision, which is what I was looking for, and accuracy and just scoring in general.
So we got to wait on DraftKings. I was on there this morning because I double checked. He was 20-1 this morning, so he has gone up to 22-1. This is the same thing that happened last week. So we need to. If you're on DraftKings, wait until Tuesday or Wednesday.
I always do it. I always like do my bets like 30 minutes before the show. I don't do my research 30 minutes before the show.
Right? Yeah, no.
I wait to put the odds in, like to place a bet like 30 minutes before the show because that typically seems where I get the peak odds. But yeah, so it's Morikawa was my smallest odds, and Cameron Young came in second for me.
All right, so the next guy I got is JT, 25-1. He's fourth in strokes gained on small green courses over the last 5 years. He has a top 10 here. I just think he's really undervalued, and it's pretty simple. This is no offense to Patrick Cantley, Sung J M, Victor Hovland, Tony Finau, Cameron Young, or Xander. But they all have either equal or lower odds than JT to win here. And let's be honest, JT wins more than any of those guys. Some of those guys don't even know how to win. So I like JT. I know he's not in great form. I just think that JT is one of those guys that he'll go through these slumps and then he breaks out. When I'm getting 25-1 with JT at most events, I think it's, worth a shot, especially if he has some kind of good history here, which again, on the small greens, he's really good because he's a very accurate iron striker. And the fact that he's got a top 10 here previously. I like JT 25-1.
I was looking to see what's Cantley's odds.
He is 12-1. Because
that makes sense. I was gonna say he's never finished lower than 7th here.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Because I got.
But he hasn't won either. That's my point. It's like that to your point about like Rahm and Scheffler. How is this dude 12-1 with a stronger field and he's never won the freaking event?
Because he's consistent and to his credit, strong fields don't like deflect his play any.
They're just doing it to screw you, so you can only get less than 3-1 odds to top 5, which is insane.
I think they're just hedging on the fact that he's been so consistent here, and there's clearly an eye for the venue that they don't want.
0 chance Cantley wins this week with
this field. And I agree. I don't. At those odds, I'm not going to bet him, but I know for a fact that bookmakers or odds makers are probably like, look, we keep getting this dude 30-1. He gets so close, and people are probably hitting the props more than anything.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's what I mean. They're doing it to fuck us on the prop.
I got Sung Jae at 25-1. It's not my most confident pick, but I just like that he's a steady golfer, man. And again, approach shots and around the green, they're typically that's his strength. And he's again not a bad par 5 scorer himself. So just thinking that at this price range is pretty solid. Probably a little overvalued considering how he's been playing and in this particular field. But at 25-1, I thought it was a good play. I'm off on JT, man. I need to see some better body language. And I know people probably like that doesn't matter. Oh, it matters, man. Like
it does, especially golf, because that means in between the ears or not.
I don't like what I see from him when he's not at his best.
Well, we always talk about Rory, right, Alan? Like, he's got that pep in that step. I love Rory. When he doesn't, I don't want anything to do with him.
And for me with JT, it's frustration. It's not a lack of confidence or anything. It's just frustration that things are not going right, and I just feel like he's seething a little, and he's putting
terribly too, which is the big thing.
Overthinking, whereas like, dude, you've made a career out of just making shit happen. What happened to that? What happened to that part of your game? I thought that was an intangible for him. That's why I liked him more than Speed and Fowler, because I was like, this dude just makes it happen. Like I've seen him hit it in rough that's above his waist, and then he somehow still gets a birdie, but all that somehow that magic's gone, and I wonder if he's just in his own head a little, trying to be perfect.
A lot of it has to do, I think, with the second major win. It's natural for these guys after they win a major to kind of, like the defending champs, right? They get fat and happy, and it just anyway. Do you have any guys in the 30-1 range? Because my next two are both 40-1.
I actually don't.
I don't either. So I like that. I got my boy Sam Burns, 40-1, Bermuda Burns, one of the best putters on the.
Is that trademark?
It better be. If it's not, let's trademark it right now, because Bermuda Burns, this dude can roll the rock, period, but especially on Bermuda greens. He has a top 10 here. He's 6th in strokes gained on small greens, which is big because his numbers on approach and tee to green are not outstanding this year compared to last year, but I like seeing that he is not, scared of playing small greens. I think it actually helps him, again, probably because he's such a good putter. And he's proved he can win. 4 wins since October 2021. How many guys with lower odds in the 25, like other than basically JT, to 40 range can say that? 4 wins in 2 years, less than 2 years, basically a year and a half. I think it's great odds for Burns at 40-1. Do you have Burns?
I don't have Burns, but I did like his game. I was thinking about picking him, but there was something about there was some tiebreaker. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I picked Tyrrell Hatton for my 40-1. I just think he sets up well. Surprisingly good with short game play. And damn it, Rahm just won the Masters, so mini Rahm or English Rahm needs to win something. That'd be great.
Bargain Rahm. That's what we're going to settle.
But I think we talked about how Shane Lowry played well last year. This sets up kind of like a link style course, and European players are typically more comfortable there. So Tyrrell made my list.
All right, I'm going to go with Tom Kim as well, 40-1. I just love this kid. I don't know if you saw, Alan. He was the youngest professional, obviously, at the Masters. There was only one amateur there that's younger. And the kid's still not even 21 years old. Yeah. Unbelievable ball striker, gaining over 2 strokes combined on approach and around the greens, 2, stats that are huge here. And you always talk about, like we have with Rahm and other guys over there, these young guys that with just unbelievable big talent, and you hope you hit them before their odds get out of control, right? To where it's not a good return on investment. He is starting to get dangerously close to that, but I still think 40-1 with his skills. Again, he's 20 years old, and look at his performances this year on tour. I'm telling you, it's only a matter of time before this guy wins a tournament. And I actually think this kind of course, seeing what I've seen about him, because he will grind. I mean, he's played well at some tough venues. I like his odds at 40-1 this week.
Yeah, I had considered him too, but I ultimately stopped because I was like, again,
really deep field.
If I wanted to take a risk on a first time person, it wouldn't be at that age. I'm sorry, he's a little too young, unproven, and then. If this were in fact his first win, 40-1 is disrespecting me as a gambler, man. That should be at least 60, man. Like, I agree. Again, they're kind of scared, and I get it, but I'm like, dang, he's capped like he's won already.
To your point, Rahm was at like 60-70-1 before his first win.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying because that we look for that value, but they're obviously a little hip to being hesitant because he is a good golfer. I didn't have another golfer until 65-1.
Yeah, I have 2 long shots, and that's it. Who you got?
Tommy Fleetwood, which is rare for me to bet him because he's like Paul Casey. He's my Paul Casey. He never wins, but he's
Tony Finau, in my opinion. Now, now that Tony has wins, he just you want to talk about a guy that I can't believe he doesn't have a PGA Tour win by now.
Yeah, he's a really good golfer, and short game is his thing, and he's a great. Like mentally,
he's won a bunch on the European tour, which to me makes it even more confusing. You just can't do it in the States.
He's a smart golfer, and I like
playing really well too. I liked what I saw him on the Masters last week,
trending up for sure. And then I'm never gonna let him go. Chris Kirk, 75-1.
I was really close. I went another 75-1, but I do like Chris Kirk this week.
Yeah, never let them go, man.
I got Justin Rose. I can't believe that he's only played at this venue once, because everything that they talk about, that leads to success here, I'm thinking that's Justin freaking Rose. The 1 year he did play here, he finished T14. He's 8th in strokes gained on small greens. He won this year at Pebble, 6th at Sawgrass, both comp courses. I loved it. I think this is probably my favorite wager this week, because I would not be shocked at all if Rose won. And 75-1 is really good odds for a guy that has consistently won over his career and won in really big fields. I like Rose a lot, 75-1.
Yeah, they've been giving him some strange odds, man. Like he's hurt, and it's been ever since he won that gold medal, which is strange,
right? Because now they're trying to say it's a major, which I kind of understand. If it's once every 4 years, it probably should be considered like a major.
Yeah, so I'm not opposed to that at all. I just once I did the 75-1, I just went higher up and then worked into my props. Billy Horschel, Brendan Todd are 150-1. I'm just gonna pair them together as plays for me. I love Billy Horschel. Anything on the East Coast swing, he's usually pretty solid there. I've got him to top 20 and the top 10.
Another great Bermuda putter.
Top 10 is an absolute long shot. I'm telling you right now, my props are absolute long shots. Because I just, again, if I'm going to get beat by Rahm and them again, I want to take the necessary risk for some value.
Yeah.
But Horschel top 20 is plus 450. That's not really a big long shot. I think he was tied for 26 last year, or pretty close to top 20 last year. Him to top 10 is 28-1.
Hello.
And my theory, once again, I do this from time to time, is that guys who place in the top 30 have a good chance of hitting the top 10 on the next swing on courses where people highlight, hey, it does you good to have played here before because you get comfortable, etc. So I'm going to take a chance on Horschel top 10, 28-1. And then Cam Davis, I don't know why his odds are so big, other than I guess because he missed the cut in his last couple events. But
he's got an unreal record.
Yeah, I was gonna say his track record here is crazy, and when he has played, he's been pretty solid. Like for the most part,
he's a ball striker. I mean, this is literally, and it proves that his record here. This is his kind of course, like courses. This is it.
It was confusing to me, so I was like, hey, top 5, 22-1.
Hello,
sign me up. So those are my props.
All right, I've got one more long shot, and then I'll get into the props. I've got Wyndham Clark, 110-1. He's gained over 4 shots on approach over his last 5 events and over 5 tee to green, back-to-back top 10s. I think he's got a real shot to win again this year. All right, going through these quickly. Top 5, Spieth plus 450, obviously won here last year in good form, gaining over 6 shots in his last 5 events combined on approach and around the greens. That is a recipe for this course. Mm-hmm. So Spieth is set up to potentially defend. I thought his odds were too low. Cameron Young, I'm doubling down on. He's 5-1. Sam Burns, I'm doubling down on, 8-1. I really like that. 8-1 for Sam Burns. This is the only really crazy one here. Fowler is 11-1, but he finished in the top 13 in 4 of his last 6 events. The big deal is he's gaining over 4 shots on the field, on approach, over his last 5 events. So if he can hit his irons like that and the putter gets hot, which we know Ricky can do, I believe he could top 5 here. And then again,
what's his overall odds?
It's like 65, I believe, unless it's gone up.
I would
55.
Yeah, I would advise people to take a flyer on Ricky because he's going to win one here soon.
It's coming. It's kind of like with Spieth, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, you could essentially get him in the same spot that we tried to get Spieth last year. So I wouldn't be afraid to just take a flyer on him.
And then again, Justin Rose, 14-1 to top 5. I'm doubling down on that. Mark it down. Like, totally could see that. All right. Top 10, Kuchar, 4-1. I know it's a strong field, but just his record here is phenomenal. What'd you say? This is like Kuchar is the short course guy. He's playing well. I like that. Theegali, 5-1, runner up at the RSM in Sea Island last November. That was one of the comp courses. Top 14 in 4 of his last 6. Deserves a lot of credit. JT Poston, 8-1 to top 10. He's got 3 top 8 finishes in 4 starts here in good form. So he loves this course. And then your boy Gary Woodland, 10-1, quietly returning to form, still an elite ball striker. Last 5 events, gaining 2.7 shots off the tee and approach. The top 20s were trash this week, man. God almighty, they did not want you to have any fun.
They're
but I'm going
not
to give you
trying.
my guy, Ben Martin, plus 360. Again, he's my guy on shorter courses, 4 top 13 finishes in his last 6 events, played well at Pebble, another comp course. Matt Wallace, who recently won, good iron player, plus 450, top 20 last time he played this event, to your point, Alan. Gaining over 4 shots combined over his last 5 events on approach and around the greens. You can see a theme on my pick. The one top 20 prop bet that I really did like was Eric Van Rooyen, 8-1, top 10 in this event last year, finished 21st in his only other appearance. He's another guy that plays well on these short, tight golf courses, second shot courses. I think that's some good value. But I'm with you. I think the top 10 and top 5 is where it is at this week. And then, kind of depending on your comfort level of going against Scheffler and Rahm, would your bets to win?
Yeah, I'm not afraid to. I'm really not afraid to run the risk, because ultimately, the thing about golf is when you win a tournament, you pretty much are good to go for the next 3 or 4 tournaments. So you can, again, run some risk. I will say there was one thing I wanted to comment on that you had said, but I think I forgot about it. But Eric Van Rooyen is one of my favorite guys.
Was it about Kuchar, Poston, the Gala?
No, it was about Poston.
Yeah.
Poston is a great scorer on the low. I don't think a lot of people know that. But he's so streaky. Like they're
I want to see. You made me think about him. I want to look what his first round odds were.
Yeah, no, he's a scorer, man.
60-1. Is that right? Hold on.
I would not.
Should be higher than that. Oh, 65-1. I like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say he has a knack for filling it up and early. So not a guy I would be afraid to take some risk.
Damn, I just realized we didn't talk about our boy Seamus Power.
I didn't talk about Seamus because I don't like his his short game right now. So I was
That's
gonna leave it alone. And that was the only reason why. If it was anything else, I would have had him on my list, but I just don't like his short game numbers right now, so I just left him alone. But again, there's another guy who has that European background and the link style courses and not being afraid of what he's going to see from this course layout. I think we'll hear a lot of guys say that they felt at home at this course, and that's going to go a long way.
Holy shit. Just looking at Van Rooyen's top 5 and top 10 odds. You got any ideas what they are? Again, he's 8-1 to top 20. He's 55-1 to top 5, 20-1 to top 10.
That's what I was going to say. The top 20 odds. And this is very true because I used to bet this a lot. Well, no, I think the market is shifting and they're cutting them by a large percentage.
Because I've been hitting them every week. That's the one thing I've been killing.
They were easier to hit over the last 3 years. The majority of my supplemental bets that hedged me were top 20s.
It's great.
Yeah, and you can get Billy Horschel at 150-1. This time last year would have been at least an 8-1 top 10. I mean top 20.
Yep.
Would have been at least 8-1. Now he's plus 450. So like you really got to go down to almost guys who are 201 to win to get anywhere near that top 8.
And it's such a big difference, right, in a top 10 and a top 20. Like it's so hard to get a top 10 to where a top 20 you really can kind of, especially if you're getting 15-1 odds or better on 3 or 4 guys, you can feel pretty confident you're going to hit one of those and make 4 times your bet, even if the other 3 don't hit. So screw you guys for making that not as much fun
hey, look, don't bet NFL then if you don't like market adjustments, because they will do that junk on the fly.
That's why I don't bet NFL.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I'll leave that up to the experts like you. I'll just do my DFS. Well, that gets us through the RBC Heritage. Again, at first I looked and I was like, God, this is such a letdown. And I forgot that they made this an elevated event. All the guys are there. So I know it's not the Masters, but it's going to be a fun event. There's going to be all the best players. And it is really important. We got majors coming up to, if you're somebody that gambles on this stuff, watch the golf. Like, don't just watch the leaders. Really pay attention to guys that are playing well. Try to figure out what courses they are, and that'll give you a leg up, obviously, going into the majors and stuff. And obviously, we'll be doing a lot of that research for you. But it just, you can, Alan can speak to this because he's somebody that's came on a lot longer than I have, of just, enjoying and betting on golf. You learn so much from just watching these guys play and seeing how they react to certain situations. And it just says so much about them as players, and it just can help you become a better gambler. So anything you want to plug, Alan, before you get out of here?
Nope, nothing to plug. I'm just gonna hope that I don't come in second place, and I too am processing my loss from this weekend. I'm not fully recovered from being angry.
I was so mad
because again, I had limited internet access and I couldn't stream. So
it was such a great call, because you said it was one of your favorite picks to win was Koepka, and it really did. It blew my mind. I hadn't even thought about it.
When I left church, I was up, and then I don't even understand how God could do that to me on Easter Sunday. That's messed up, man.
I really believe if the weather wouldn't have shifted and gotten colder, I think he would have ran away with it, because he looked so good those first 2 days when it was warm. But I just want to plug, I am going to be doing I'll be back on Fantasy and Frames this weekend, Saturday. I am doing a best ball podcast. We are starting a best ball podcast show, which for those that play fantasy football, best ball is, other than DFS, in my opinion, the best way to go. All you got to do is prepare for your draft. After that, it's optimal lineup. So you draft your team. I think there's like 8 bench spots on it. And literally whatever your best lineup is for that week is automatically entered. It's the way to go. I am not going to be co-hosting that for the season, but while they get that second host who is moving over to Fantasy and Frames, I think in the next couple of weeks, I will be filling in. And then obviously I'll be back with our boy, Joe the Brain Mats, to do the Daily Fix next year. But be sure to check that out. Be sure to check out my article on Fantasy Six Pack. Be sure to join the Discord, and we will see you guys soon. Alan, appreciate it, buddy. You the man.
All right, man. Take care.